and welcome to The Diplomat. I'm your host, Kang Seonu. Last year, over 1 million Koreans held up candles on the streets of Seoul, demanding peaceful and democratic transition of power. In world history, there's a similar incident in the late 80s where people fought against one-party government in the communist regime. I'm talking about the Velvet Revolution in the former Czechoslovakia. Today on The Diplomat, we are going to meet Czech Ambassador to Korea, Tomas Husak, to learn more about the past, present, and future of the two countries. Hello, Ambassador Tomas Husak. Welcome to our show. It's a great pleasure to have you on our show. Would you like to say hello to our viewers?
Yes, of course. I am very glad that I can speak with you, and I hope that your viewers will be satisfied with this discussion.
Thank you. You started your term in October 2014, so this is your 5th year in the country. Can you tell us about your personal story with Korea as well as the overall impression of the country?
I came to Korea first time in 1990, and I visited Korea in that time several times because I was a member of the team which prepared 2 agreements between our countries. So in 1992, I was here with my minister to sign agreement about the avoidance of double taxation. After that, I was connected with Korea. So, for example, when KOTRA, Korean Trade Association, came to Prague, I was helping them in the first stages to set up the office and to prepare the connections. During my stay in Geneva, I had the pleasure and honor to cooperate with Madame Kang, current Foreign Minister of Korea, etc., etc. So I really have the long tradition of cooperation with Korea, and I enjoy it every time.
I see. I understand that Korea and Czech Republic share many similarities. Let's first focus on history. Koreans suffered 36 years under the darkness of Japanese rule, and I understand that Czechs also went through a similar tragedy. Can you tell us about that?
In history, we have a number of things in common. Both nations had to fight for independence and even for the being. Czechoslovakia was founded in 1918, and after that, within a short period of time, became one of the 12 most developed countries in the world. Like Korea, become one of the 12 most developed countries in the world after the Korean War. Unfortunately, in our case, we were occupied by Germany. At the end of the war, our industry was completely destroyed. So we had to work and fight again. And we had a problem in 1948 when communists took over, in 1968 when the Russian army occupied. And we have got our real freedom in 1989.
Right.
So these are very similar things between our nations. Both countries had to fight a lot to have their own country in
Right.
order.
The Czechs fought for democracy starting with Prague Spring in 1968 to the Velvet Revolution in 1989. Do you know that Koreans also protested against the military dictatorship around the same time?
It is well known in our country that, for example, 1960, the April uprising,
Right.
which was under the same principles as we were fighting in 1968, in 1989 for our freedom. And for your information, our Czech Center in Korea is preparing exhibition which should put both those aspects together to compare Prague Spring and Korean Spring together. And our aim is that this exhibition can be shown in Korea and in Czech Republic too.
I see. 2018 must be a very special year for Czechs because it marks the 50th anniversary of the Prague Spring and the 25th anniversary of Czech Foundation. I believe it is more significant for you personally because you experienced both of them, right?
I was a student in 1968 when Russian tanks came to our country to crush our effort for more free society. You're right, this year is a very special year, but more than the establishment of independent Czech Republic. We are celebrating 100 years of independence of Czechoslovakia, which was in 1918. I can say that we are not very proud about division of Czechoslovakia. It was necessity, but according to my opinion, it was a pity.
I see. As you would already know, Koreans also worked a peaceful democratic miracle last year through the so-called candlelight revolution. What kind of impression did those events leave on you?
For me, it was very, very special experience. It was like returning back to 1989 in our country during our Velvet Revolution. The atmosphere was practically the same. Those were very peaceful processes, very peaceful protests, which led to the final result, any essential problem.
Right.
So I was really delighted to be in Korea in the same time.
Another asset that the two countries have in common is that we both overcome our historical pain and made huge economic growth. Where do you think that power comes from?
According to my opinion, this power is coming from our people. Our people were ready to fight and to work very hard. Korea used to be the least developed country, and only thanks to the effort of Korean people become power. In Czech Republic, we went through similar experience. After the change of the system in our country, more than 50% of our people had not only to change their job, but they had to requalify for other works. And it went successfully. And today we are enjoying one of the strongest growths in European Union, and we have the lowest unemployment in European Union.
In one interview, you mentioned that if there's one thing I could take home with me from Korea, I like to bring Korean students and their passion for learning. Can you elaborate further on this idea?
We are now living in a very dynamic world. And if we want to succeed, we have to work hard and we have to find out new ways for our countries.
Right.
And a lot depends on the students, on their ability to learn and on their ability to deliver what they have learned. And the Korean students are very well known for their strengths in study, for their effort. And that's why I think that the students are our future.
Right. The Czech Republic is a very popular and famous tourist attraction for many Koreans and also other people from all over the world. What do you think is the charm or beauty of the Czech Republic that attracts so many people from all over the world?
Our country has a long history and has a long history in culture. And our country was lucky that during the European wars, our capital, Prague, was not destroyed like other capitals. So we were preserving all these memories from the past, and we can now show them to the world. And I am very glad that the biggest number of tourists from Asia is not coming from China, is not coming from Japan, is coming from Korea.
Yeah, right. So now talking about the Czech Republic, we can't forget about all the greats of Czech culture and its world-famous tradition of classical music and literature. So can you share with us how you've been trying to spread the Czech culture to Koreans?
We are having the Czech Cultural Center here in Korea. There are only 5 cultural centers opened by embassies in Korea.
Oh, I see.
And our Czech Center is introducing our culture in Seoul, and not only in Seoul, but around the country. We are introducing our artists, writers, dancers, singers, painters, etc., etc. So there is a program throughout the year for introduction of the Czech culture in Korea through the Czech Cultural Center.
I see. And you recently connected Czech writers with Korean audiences. How did this come about?
As I mentioned already, Czech Center is organizing the actions how to introduce Czech culture to Korea. I will say just one example. Our writer, Renata Fučíková, had 3 exhibitions in Korea during last 3 years. One of them on Nami Island, the place I like very much. Other authors are coming for the reading, book reading and presentations. And we have one important action. This is translation competition called Zuzana Roth Award. This is the competition for Korean translator to translate part of the Czech books to Korean. And the winner is getting 1 week stay in our country to be more fluent in the Czech language.
I see, that's great. While we are at it, let's take a glimpse of that wonderful exchange.
One of Korea's biggest book-related events, the Seoul International Book Fair, took place on June 20th in the presence of writers and publishers from 32 countries around the world, including France, the US, Japan, and China. Of those, the Czech Republic was invited to the event as the guest of honor. 2018 marks a very special year for Czechs with 3 important anniversaries. The 100th anniversary of the foundation of Czechoslovakia, the 50th anniversary of the Prague Spring, and the 25th anniversary of the establishment of today's Czech Republic. Adding to that, the nation's literary legacy was celebrated in Korea here at the book fair.
It's our honor and a pleasure to introduce the work of the Czech authors at Seoul Book Fair. Czech literature has a rich history which started at the 14th century and contained such a well-known authors like Franz Kafka, Karel Čapek, who invented the word robot, Jaroslav Seifert, Nobel Prize laureate, Bohumil Hraban, Milan Kundera, and others. Anyhow, there will be present 6 contemporary Czech authors here at the Seoul Book Fair, and we are sure that the Korean public will appreciate their works too.
As the guest of honor, 6 of the nation's contemporary writers personally paid a visit to Korea.
I'm very excited. It is a wonderful opportunity because for me it's a very exotic culture, very exotic country, and I'm enjoying it very much.
Also, the nation organized 2 special exhibitions to further introduce the excellence of its literature. One was The 12 Worlds, featuring 12 contemporary Czech children's book illustrators and comic authors. And the other one, called Meanwhile Elsewhere, highlighted the rich history of Czech comics.
체코가 주빈국인데 우리가 쉽게 이렇게 접할 수 있는 책들은 아니다 보니까 좀 새로 와서 좀 들리게 됐고요. 둘러보니까 분위기가 많이 달라서 좀 신기한 것 같고 좀 새롭기도 한 것 같아요.
Though far apart geographically, Korea and the Czech Republic came together in the name of culture. Using that powerful medium, the fair is expected to mark a big turning point in the mutual relationship and cultural exchanges between the 2 countries.
It will be very interesting for Korean readers to find out the latest development of literature in our country. We expect that it will be some kind of turning point. We have quite a number of publishers in both countries publishing the books, but we think that this time it will increase the number of the books on both sides in both countries.
The Czech Republic lies in the very heart of Europe, and now its treasured literature is touching hearts here in Korea.
Wow, so it looks like a great success, the event. How did you feel about Czech Republic being the guest of honor this year?
Well, Czech Republic is a small country, and we consider this event as a real honor for our country. We have number of excellent writers. We have number of excellent publishers, but we can seldom get such an honor like we have got at the Seoul Book Fair this year.
Great. Czech literature is very well received in Korea with a number of famous writers like Franz Kafka and Milan Kundera. What do you think is the reason?
Our countries have similar history, and our countries had to fight and work very hard for our future. And that is why people in both countries can understand more to writers of each country, because people went through the same past and same experience, and they can more understand than with the countries which don't have such an experience.
I see. So now the opposite question. How popular are Korean arts and culture in the Czech Republic?
Well, I can say that there is more Korean books translated and published in our country Then there is Czech book translated and published in Korea. And I can say that just currently publisher Argo, with his Korean counterpart, made a contract for another 10 books, which will be shortly published in Korea.
Oh, I see.
And I can say that the Korean authors are known in our country. For example, Han Musuk and Lee Mun-yeol are authors which are well known.
I see. Czech Republic was the first European country to have Korean language program at university. And it dates all the way back to 1949 when it remained a communist country. Obviously, at that time, Korea was nowhere near what it is like today. How did it all begin?
The interest about Korea started around the year 1900. In that time, there was the first Czech traveler and photographer, Mr. Stanko Vraj, who came to Korea and took a lot of photographs. Today, you can see those photographs in Korean Museum of History and in number of Czech museums. And in the same time, started interest about Far East countries, which was targeted mainly for China. After the war, this became more pronounced and divided into the study, into the Chinese study, Korean studies, Japanese studies, and later on even Vietnamese studies. So the history is quite long, but it was formalized in that year.
I see. Korea and the Czech Republic have been great economic, cultural, diplomatic, and technological partners in so many fields. And in which field have the two been the strongest partners?
As a diplomat, I should say first that we have excellent diplomatic relations. We are sharing the same values and we are fighting together for these values on international field. We have excellent trade exchange, and our trade exchange is more than $4 billion US. And for your information, this is the bigger exchange that we as a Czech Republic has with Japan. So our countries are complementing each other. And by this trade exchange, we are helping for export from the both countries.
Can you share some of your plans to encourage more cooperation and exchange between the two countries?
There is the field where we can more develop our cooperation. For example, student exchanges. Currently, we have 300 students studying in Korea. Korea has about 300 students studying in Czech Republic, but we would like to increase this number. We would like to go for more cooperation in R&D, research and development. In our country, we have some top centers, like the biggest laser center in Europe. We are good at optoelectronic, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, and there are exactly the fields where we can cooperate with Korea. So that's the way I would like to go for future.
I heard that Korea is the last post for you as a diplomat. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm sure your accomplishments will be respected and admired. How do you want to be remembered by Koreans after your term as ambassador?
Ambassadors are coming and leaving, and they are not only representatives of their countries. They are as well servants. And ambassador has to be able to serve to both countries, not only to his country. And what I am trying to do is to serve well to the needs of our both countries.
Thank you so much for your time today, Ambassador. It was a great pleasure to have you on our show. Thank you very much.
I thank you very much. We have two children.
Remember the name of the traditional kind of bread that rolls around. How do you say it?
Diplomat is a person who is opening door between two countries and is responsible that these doors are wide enough and the exchange through these doors is going in both directions.